listeners to our show this morning. Tom, we were talking about the separation of church and state, and we had a few quotes there from founding fathers, and
TJ,
Thomas Jefferson, and we left off with your addressing the issue, the topic of having a religious test for people serving in public office.
Right.
And I thought that's a good thing we don't have one in this country. And you seem to indicate, well, maybe there should be some kind of test. Well, elaborate on that.
Exactly. For the record,
okay.
I as a priest, as a religious person, I don't want there to be a basic test, a test going into any polling booth. However, I was saying that the historical context of the American Revolutionary War needs to be appreciated to understand why and how Thomas Jefferson and the Founding Fathers put that concept into our culture, our Constitution so firmly. But let me say this. Unfortunately, I think some of the recent happenings of this past decade, especially referring to 9/11, is forcing us to ask another question. What if a religion is not open to this Western type of Judeo-Christian civilization, if I could use that term? What if a religion, what if one of those principles of religion is to completely take over that culture? And
what might that religion you be referring to?
Well, it could be many different kinds, but especially we can see the Islamic faith has some principles that seem to be in contradiction or contrary. I'm especially thinking, and there are many wonderful teachings about love and the fear of God and the existence of God that you can find in their Quran and in their teachings. However, what is also found is the principle of heaven, paradise for those who kill Christians. That's a small little thing, but it's a very big thing. It's small in the sense that it doesn't take up many pages.
And we certainly hear of suicide bombers. People have been hearing about that, for years now, since 9/11. There will be young people who strap bombs to themselves and go kill in the name of something that drives them. And some say that there's religious underpinnings to that.
And should there be a religious test? Could we formulate the most basic of tests? I guess is what I'm almost a sense of a pledge of loyalty, a pledge of endurance or a covenant with this land that we belong to. That will not. If maybe we'd even say, you can share your faith, you can preach your religious principles, but you must make a pledge not to use violence to destroy those who don't believe in what you are saying.
I think most people would agree with that. There are laws you can't kill in this country.
If that's true, then we have to revisit. Then we have to reassess the separation of church and state, because now we know. We didn't imagine this. I have to confess, I didn't imagine that there would be such religious principles that would be so contrary to what is established here. Unfortunately, there are. And if that kind of progress, if that kind of reform could be seen in some of the faiths that would be bent on destroying the Judeo-Christian Western culture, or at least living, or I would even give them this, let them argue and debate on a level playing field. Let us discuss these things and let the facts and let the evidence of our faith speak for themselves.
So you're arguing that there's got to be more light shined on this aspect of some religions that are somewhat contradictory to our Judeo-Christian tradition.
Thomas Jefferson said, and many of the founding fathers said, we must let everyone have their own religious principles. We must give an absolute right, almost. I don't know if they use the term absolute right, but it's almost like that when you read the founding fathers' papers. Because we didn't imagine that there would be some religious principles that would be so contrary. Now, I need our listeners to think of this, too, in the context of the historical situation of the American Revolution. Notice Spain, I don't believe, would have formulated such a principle as those sons of New England, of England did. Why? Because Spain had 700 years of, we can say, slavery under the Islamic domination. And they knew if they were to formulate a position that says, well, all religions are accepted here, they would realize, wait a minute, we can't say that because we know what will happen. And that's why there's a great difference between the development of the United States and the 13 colonies and subsequent United States of America, and the development of Mexico and many of the Latin American countries.
Yeah, we touched on that a little bit in a previous show of ours.
It's worth reflecting on. It's worth seeing because not that we don't appreciate us. The Catholic faith that existed in Spain learned a lesson. Now, perhaps us Catholics, perhaps we need to learn another lesson today. Because, what was interesting, Mexico, as it was founded by this Spanish influence, the Catholic influence, they did come up with a rule much different than our separation of church and state. They actually said, Catholicism is the only religion we will tolerate. Now, you might say, hey, Father Tom, wouldn't you like that kind of rule? That would be a great advantage, right? Well, I think from my chair and my position and my status right today and where I am as an American, I would say no. Yeah. I would say no, that probably wasn't the best rule to come up with. And as a matter of fact, Mexico, even though most of the people there are Catholic, it has reformed, I guess you could say. It's augmented. And that absolute prohibition of any other religion has subsided, as well it should. There's almost something un-Catholic about saying that no religions but Catholicism will be accepted.
Again, I said this before in the past here. I think, our letting all religions have freedom in this country, and let there be a competition, if you will, between all religions, and there's a freedom there that has served us very well through our history.
Yeah. A competition as long as it's a level playing field, just like we say in economics all the time.
Granted.
And if one group is kind of allowed to rule with the sword, they will obviously have an advantage. And,
we don't want that.
That is my simple point. That I think all of us. I believe speaking as a Catholic priest, and I know many of our listeners, John, are of the evangelical churches around Chicagoland, and I think this is a time for unity between us. It's a time of consolidation. It's a time of not looking at some of the issues that separate us, that exist.
Look at those that unify us.
There's a lot of need
common belief in the Savior of Christ.
Christians, as opposed to non-Christians, should be more united than we are. And that's an important theme of the ecumenical movement, is what we call it. Also here in the United States, I believe the United States is teaching the world in a lot of ways. What things have happened here in the United States have helped religions, and I think even the United States has helped Catholicism. Funny enough to say, with that concept of religious freedom. The Vatican Council, one of the major documents of the Second Vatican Council, which happened in 1960s, was the document on religious freedom. And I think almost every denomination should be pushed to produce something like what we produced at that time. Let me say one other thing before we end our time together. The concept of religion, when I was down at Monticello,
Yes.
I had to ask our guide. I said, what denomination was Thomas Jefferson? I kind of knew the answer, but I wanted to see what her answer was. And she reacted kind of nervously, like, you're not supposed to ask that question. And she said, he didn't belong to any congregation. He sometimes went to the Methodist church in the town. But she quickly said, that's why he was so pro-religious freedom. And then she followed up with her comment, almost exactly how Thomas Jefferson wrote, because she said, well, because religion is a matter between God and the individual. I think the present difficulties we have today need us to reflect and revisit what we just mean by that, because religion, for me, is not just a matter of the individual between God.
It's very social dimension.
It's between God and me and my neighbor.
Yes.
And if we leave out neighbor, we destroy the essence of what religion means. And we need to reconcile right now what our mission is and what it is to reconcile the idea of faith, our salvation and faith without works. But why are we frustrated with the moral decline of the country?
That'll have to wait for another topic, another show, another time.
God bless everyone. Please tune in next week.